The views and opinions expressed in this broadcast do not necessarily reflect or represent the views and opinions of WBGR Network.
Good morning. Happy Friday. It's a new month, and this is the first Friday of October. You're tuning in live to Wanda's Warriors live radio broadcast, and I just want to say welcome again to tuning in every Friday from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. I would want everyone to like, share, and start a watch party. Like, share, and start a watch party. I have a guest with me today, and we have a great topic. And I want to introduce you to LaShelle Adams. So give her some heart, show her some love. Start a watch party because we have a great topic that we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about several topics, but I just want to say thank you, LaShelle, for being a guest on the show.
Thank you, Wanda.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So tell the viewers, who is LaShelle Adams?
So LaShelle Adams, I am a woman of God first, entrepreneur, business owner, minister, author, speaker.
Amen.
Through God's grace,
Amen.
He gives me the strength to balance and to put them all in their prospective places.
Okay. Now, you
Yes.
said you're a minister. How long have you been a minister?
I've been ordained since 2014.
Okay,
Yep,
that's awesome.
2014.
That is awesome.
Yes.
And you're an author, and I see you brought your book today.
Yes.
Can you tell the viewers the title of your book,
Yes.
how long it's been out, and what your book is about?
Yes, I am Abigail. This is my baby. And I am Abigail. Actually, we're coming up on a year.
Wow.
Yep, so I'm really excited because in lieu of October, Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I actually launched it last year, right about October the 11th.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah, so I Am Abigail is a wonderful short read that I was hoping would capture, those in turmoil or those that just need a quick read to get them through a domestic situation or circumstance. So the book is revolved around several types of abuse. We have the physical abuse, things where it includes touch and all of that. But inside of that, the underlying issues are a lot of the emotional control and all of that stuff. And so I
Yes.
Am Abigail really, really touches on a lot of heartfelt, true life stories of women who have dealt with various situations and how God allowed them and gave them the wisdom and the strength to navigate through their situation.
Amen.
whether it was to leave or to stay. Yes.
Now, your title, I Am Abigail, how did you come up with the title, and who is Abigail?
Yeah, so how I came up with the title, I Am Abigail, is last year, let's see, I was asked by my pastor, Michelle. We had to do we were embarking on our women's conference, and she came to me about doing a breakthrough heartbreak session.
Wow.
For our women's conference. Very, very powerful. And the amazing thing, Wanda, is when something is in you, it doesn't take long. I was actually working on another project, had been working on it for like 3 years.
Wow.
And I Am Abigail was birthed out of my spirit in a matter of like 2 months, like
Wow.
6 to 8 weeks, because I could relate to Abigail so much. So Abigail is in 1 Samuel the 25th chapter, right? Starts, right around verse 3. And she was a very beautiful, wise woman, servant, it was so many things about her. And she happened to be married to a very mean and surly man.
Yeah.
And so Abigail, in her wisdom, she avoided a whole household from being demolished, from her husband, coming from Nabal, and David, King David, giving him mercy. So that who Abigail is. And it was amazing that so many people, after I wrote it, they didn't even know. They had not heard of Abigail.
Read that chapter or anything.
At all, because she's one of the least talked about, but she is very powerful. So I could relate to her in more ways than one. And so that's where I Am Abigail came in. And, it was just birthed out of me. It was birthed out of just talking to other women. And I said, Lord, it's got to be something that can be written, to come back and give women strength, and particularly a lot of women in Christendom, in the church, that many times lie silent.
And that's something that we are definitely going to address, to really dig into. And I like the title, I Am Abigail. I, for one, did not know what the word Abigail meant. I had to go back and read the chapter. And if you read her beauty, not just on the outside, but it also inside, because regardless of how mean and surly her husband was, she never allowed herself to get out of place.
No, she didn't.
She kept a steady composure about her. And as women of God, that's how we need to be. Because someone gets out of order, out of character towards us, we are not to go that way also. So is your book made of short stories, or is it just your own story, or
so the book is short stories. It's comprised of short stories, various characters. It is it is a nonfiction or fiction, based on real life experiences. But the characters are very, real. The situations are very real. The people are very real. And one thing I said, in the beginning, I said, I'm not, a PhD, psychologist, none of those things. But what I do have is experience, the wisdom of God, the Holy Spirit, and all of these things. And sometimes experience is the best thing.
Teacher.
And when you come out of a situation, right, we can pull others out. So that's why we go through. So when we go through, it's not for naught, but it's to go back and grab our sister, grab our brother, and bring them with us. So that's what those characters are doing.
Because a lot of the times, most of the time, the things that we go through aren't even about us.
No.
They're to help someone else.
That's right.
And that's like this month is National Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
Absolutely.
And it's National Domestic Violence Month.
Yes.
So your book, I Am Abigail, is perfect for this month.
Yes.
Because it touches on domestic violence. And domestic violence has a broad definition.
Yes.
It's an ever-growing definition, because it encompasses so much. So for those who may not know all what domestic violence is, can you let the viewers know what domestic violence is?
Absolutely. So as Wanda said, domestic violence is so broad because, traditionally it was always about if you were physically hit. And yes, we know that is very real. Unfortunately, we're still losing women, thousands of women, and some men in some cases, to domestic physical violence, where it be through gunfire or what have you. But then there is an underlying issue where the wounds don't show. Okay, and that's dealing more with your emotional, with your mental, with your psychological, with your verbal. All of these are domestic issues that are often not dealt with, or we don't make it as much of a big deal, but many times it starts right there.
It starts
and
there.
It escalates.
Exactly. And to be, I'm always transparent.
Yes.
And I grew up seeing domestic violence in different members of my family or in friends, but it was physical. So to me, that's what I honestly thought
Absolutely.
domestic violence was. But then as I got into different relationships during my adult life and manipulative relationships, controlling relationships, I did not know that verbal, emotional, mental, even financial, spiritual, all of that falls under domestic abuse, and I did not know any of that. And after I escaped, God provided a way of escape for me to get out of toxic relationships and abusive relationships, abusive in all forms. Whether it was marriage or boyfriend or whatever. And when I had to go through counseling, and one thing the counselor pointed out to me, and counseling is something that a lot of men and women won't get, and we started from the first encounter that I endured any type of domestic violence. And she said, do you know that your entire adult life has been filled with abuse?
Wow. Yes.
And for me, I was thinking because it wasn't always physical.
That absolutely.
It didn't mean that much, but it does, because those emotional scars,
oh my God,
those verbal scars, somebody always talking down to you, your self-esteem plummets. To me, those scars took longer to heal than the bruises.
Absolutely. And it goes so deep, Wanda. And as you were saying, just like myself, sometimes we don't even know it, but you know in your heart something just isn't right.
Exactly.
Something is off. And one of my first chapter, or I believe it would be my second, is called "You're Not Crazy." And I talk about that because a lot of times, often when you're living up under a narcissistic or you're being gaslighted, which is someone that they kind of take your mind and they make you think that it's on you. They flip it, and it's always you,
and then you know what you saw and you know what you heard, and then they're like, you didn't see that, you didn't, and you're like, well, maybe I didn't. It's like you second guess yourself, but deep down in your spirit, you know you saw, you heard what you heard,
and you know what you know. So you know that certain things that is not the will of God. And so as you were saying, all of those scars go very deep.
Yes,
and so
do.
Your different, your emotional, your mental, your psychological. I mean, we're not even going to talk about it. You may not have a black eye, but you could be building up such stress levels. So many things. Sickness can follow that. Sometimes you can fall into the hands of the enemy, and that enemy could be alcohol. It could be drugs, a love affair. So many things because you are up under such scrutiny and control and manipulation, and it's just a hard place to be. It's a very hard place to live,
Yeah, and sometimes some women, this is a month where you're going to hear all types of cliches. You're going to hear people that may have been in a domestic violence situation for maybe 10 years or 5 years, and then you're going to have those that, well, why didn't they get away sooner? Don't come at that person with why didn't you get away sooner. Just thank God that he or she escaped with their life, because everyone doesn't make it out alive.
No, they don't. You are right, Wanda. And everybody, that's a situation that's very, very touchy, because one thing we know, even licensed clinicians, the doctors, the psychologists, no one will tell you that it's time to leave or to leave. They will always tell you that. What they will do is they will give you the advice, the facts, the signs, and ultimately that is a decision that you have to make. And so, like you said, thank God that we got out, because some people don't get out. And sometimes, it is for a time of endurance, and it is for you and to to endure that situation. But you have to know, one of the things I talk about in this book that's talked about is the rhythm of your partner's heart, your husband's heart. Because one thing I know, see, the Bible says, and it talks about Nabal. See, Nabal had a very hardened heart.
He was a mean man.
He was a mean man.
I urge everyone to go back. Can you give them the chapter again for the viewers to go back and read it?
Yes, please go back and read 1 Samuel chapter 25 and just start from the very beginning. Okay, and you will see all about it. But he was mean, he was rigid, he was surly, and he would not bend. Even in David, just wanted to bring him just a peace offering, and he even got offended by that.
Someone's trying to do good to you and you still being mean. And isn't it something how in now United States or America, this is the month for National Domestic Violence Awareness, but look how long it's been going on.
Oh my goodness, for years. I mean, I can go back even in my own family, and you talking, oh my God, let's not even talk about the cycles,
the generational
cycles, and breaking this stuff. And I can go back where women, just tolerated whatever, whether it was, you tolerate the adultery, you tolerate, the abuse, and you just tolerate it, and they stayed and they stayed and they stayed. And I'm gonna tell you what I know. Although my mother and my grandmother have gone on to be with the Lord, but I know even before their wisdom, and because they endured some things, their wish and their advice to me would have been to do exactly what I did. Get out.
And in a lot of times when you look back throughout the generationals, our grandparents, great-grandparents, a lot of times the woman did not work.
No.
She stayed home. So then you have that factor. They felt that they had to stay in that situation because there was not an income for them to leave.
Absolutely.
And a lot of women do stay in those situations because I don't have a job, I don't have means of income, so I'll just have to stay in this relationship and take
That's that whole economical, abuse, that whole economical principle. So they feel like, yes, they have no way out. And this is why, too, today, because some women don't have the financial independence. But if that is the case, and say like you're being beaten and things, there are safe houses that you can get to. There are things that are created where God can give you a way of escape.
And it affects everyone. And I pulled up some things on domestic violence, and it said, I have some statistics. It is estimated that more than 10 million people experience domestic violence in the United States each year.
Yes.
And the definition per Wikipedia, when I started reading this, I was like, whoa. When we said at the beginning of the show that it's a broad definition, listen to how broad this definition is. The definition of domestic abuse is verbal, emotional, economic, which we talked about, physical, sexual abuse. All these forms of domestic abuse have one purpose: to gain and maintain control over the victim. Abusers use many tactics to put their power over their spouse or partner: dominance, humiliation, isolation, threats, intimidation, denial, and blame. And then as a society, we may feel, well, why does it matter? If it's not happening to you, why does it matter? But it happens in every community. It affects people regardless of your race, regardless of your socioeconomic status, regardless of your sexual orientation, regardless of your gender, because, now you have same gender relationships, and domestic violence occurs in those relationships, So it's just something that everyone needs to talk about. Everyone needs to know the signs. So do you have anything to let the viewers know what some of the signs are?
Absolutely, So even what you were saying, I want to just go back to one thing before I even get into the signs.
Sure.
Because as Wanda was saying, it may not be you, but you begin to feel it. If it's not you, about 1 in every 5 women you can count and they have been exposed
Exactly.
to it. And so we
Exactly.
want to be our sister's keeper, our brother's keeper. But if for nothing else, we want to be involved and know the signs, if for no more than the generation behind us.
Exactly.
Because I'm very, passionate. My girls that are dating, my 20-something-year-old girls, my teenage girls, it's very important to bring awareness to them.
Yes.
For those of you that don't know, February is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month.
Yes.
And this year I had a chance, I went to a few high schools, but I went to Eastern High School and I brought awareness to over 40 students, seniors, both 11th and 12th graders. And it was so amazing, but they could identify. So some of the signs I always say and tell people is that if you can't be your authentic you, bad deal.
Well,
you should have a voice.
Yes.
That's one of the biggest things when it comes under the control wheel. If you don't have a voice, if it's a problem for you just to even have a voice and be your authentic self, that's your first sign.
Yes.
Because you have to come as yourself.
Yes, for someone well, I want to wear this outfit. And
Yes.
it's like, no, you're only going to wear red outfits, or you're only
yeah.
going to wear blue outfits, or you're only going to wear your hair
a
but this
certain way.
certain way. You're only going to wear
Yes.
a certain color of nail polish, or those are signs of control.
And isolation. Where they want to keep you from friends, family. You go to work, you come home, that's it. Or
And
you
trap you.
And you're always like on this timeline. You got to get back to it, because then they're going to be calling you soon. And where are you? And what time are you going to get home? And you have no peace.
No peace. And there is a new terminology. It's like these millennials. You have to understand their language
Yes.
as well. So there is a terminology that I learned this week, and it's called the machine gun effect.
Wow.
Have you heard of that
No,
terminology?
you tell me.
Okay, so the machine gun effect, because the machine gun is for someone that does a stalking method.
Okay.
Someone that stalks you on social media. Someone that may even sit outside your house. It's like they're constantly pounding, or they are constantly trying to find out where you are, what you're doing. That is called the machine gun effect.
Wow.
When I heard that this week, actually it was on the Tamron Hall.
Yes.
So she did a show on
machine
domestic
gun.
violence, and they talked about it there, and I was like,
right. And so that even brings me back to when you say that the younger people in the generation, because you're right, we didn't even get into the cyber abuse, the texting, or they call it sexting. But the cyber is big. There are those that have even took their lives, teenagers, because of this cyber bullying. This cyber
that's a form
abuse.
of humiliation. That's abuse.
Yes, it is. So it's so many signs, Wanda, as you were saying. So you got your isolation.
Yes.
You can't be your authentic self. If they control your money,
Yes.
that's
Financial abuse
is a major thing. And so things just have to be done in respect, in a manner of respect, even when and we know that even in marriage, your body belongs to your partner, but where it becomes where it's just no respect and things like that, it can get out of hand. And so you have to be able to just speak up. We should not be controlled.
Even I'm glad when you said with your partner, because there is the term sexual abuse.
Yes,
now,
it is.
Most people will think it's if you're raped, by someone, you're not married to or whatever. But no, sexual abuse can occur in your marriage when you're forced to do a particular act or acts against your own will. That is sexual abuse.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It really is. So, and some people may not get with it, but this is true. This is factual. And so we're not even speaking on the things that come out of your mouth. Another verbal sign is the verbal, belittling you. You're not good enough. Why did you do that? Or, if you hadn't done that, then I wouldn't have done this.
And why are you gaining weight?
Right.
You're fat, or, and it's like, How can someone that say they love you
Yes.
say these things to you?
My God.
You know, it's to put your self-esteem down, to humiliate you. I guess so no one else, you think, like if someone else would give you a compliment, you would think, well, why are they complimenting me? Because my husband or well,
Yes.
men get abused too, so you can say my
Men,
wife
yes.
tells me, you know, I'm ugly or I'm fat or I'm out of
Yes.
shape, but this person paid me a compliment. Something must be wrong with them
Yes.
for giving me a compliment.
And another thing, and that's so true that I thought about, is these threats where it's indirect, but it's a direct. Like they may have a pistol in the drawer, or
Yes.
they may be sleeping with a gun on their chest,
Yes.
but you know that it's nearby.
Yeah, and you
so
know
these
it's for
forms
you.
of intimidation, and that's to keep you in fear. And when you have to be in constant fear, or when you have to walk on constant eggshells, that is not of God, and that is a form of abuse.
It's a form of
Yes,
abuse.
it is.
And you have so many people, you know, who may want to get out, and then you have, you know, your family members who may have stayed in
Yes.
those situations through generations, and you know, you may go to a trusted aunt or a trusted great grandmother, you know, or whatever, and you tell them, you know, well, he's abusing me, and they be like, baby, just don't worry
Just
about
don't
it,
worry
just
about
hang
it.
in there. You know, those are the type things that a lot of women have grown up with.
Yes, they have. They have grown
know?
up with it, and I'm telling you, we see it all the time. I can't tell you, you know, just in private or just in secret, the number of women that have come to me, even in church, in church, in the holiest of churches,
Yes.
where they have been told to stay, and they have sought counsel with the pastors, with the lead, and they have been told to stay.
I was one of those women.
Yes. And so, you know, but I thank God that now he's bringing light to a lot of this stuff, and that he has brought forth a generation, or you know, a remnant like those of us that are not afraid to speak out loud and say, this is what it is, and it's not God, and you
it's
can't
not of
use
God.
the Bible and manipulate someone with the Bible. That's another one.
Because then they'll use different scriptures. You know, wife is supposed to be submissive to her husband. Yes, we do understand the term submissive, but am I to be submissive to you if you're bruising me every day? Am I to be submissive to your punches? Punches is not love. And the man that you're married to is supposed to love God more than you. So
absolutely.
God didn't punch anyone.
No, he's supposed to love you as he loves his own body. You know, and I talk about that. That's around Ephesians 5:28, where it talks about, you know, how the man, you know, is to treat his wife, and really he should love you. It says, you know, as much as he loves himself.
Exactly.
It says, have you ever seen a man beating his own body? You haven't seen that. So we are to love and respect one another, you know, in such a way that it is not offensive.
But a lot of times, the person that is the abuser, and especially if you're in the church, they will use different scriptures.
Yes, they will.
You know, which is also a form of manipulation, a form of intimidation, to keep that woman in that relationship, or to keep that woman silent. And then a lot of times, that woman will feel like, well, it'll be embarrassed. I'll be embarrassed. Who can I tell in the church?
Right, absolutely.
You know, who can you go to in the church? And if this is happening, because a lot of times, even in the church, you know, in your sports world, you have what's called the Good Old Boy Network. That even occurs in the church. You have first ladies that are being abused.
Oh, my goodness.
And, you know, and you definitely can't go and tell another first lady, you know, my husband is beating me. And they're like, well, this person is a bishop and this is an apostle, and they preach to the walls come down on Sunday. You know, people falling out in the pews and people shouting. But when you go home, that person is a whole nother individual behind closed doors.
Yes, absolutely.
And you have that. It's like it's swept under the rug.
Yes, and
you know, it's like you see but you don't see.
Yeah, and that day is just over.
It's over.
So we're you know, we are in the year and the time of the spirit of Elijah, and Elijah was one that spoke forth. He told truth, he exposed, and I'm telling you now, things are being exposed, and it's time for us, and that's including me too,
yes.
to get our houses in order. So if you're playing church, if you're playing this, if you're treating your spouse in one way out, and that's for women too.
Yes.
If you're treating them one way outside, then you go to church and you teach, and you're in you're out of line.
You're out of line.
You're out of line.
Yeah, and you have to be careful because the children are watching.
Absolutely.
And one of the statistics says 1 in 15 children are exposed to domestic violence. Each year, 90% of these children are eyewitnesses to this violence.
Yes.
So you got children that are watching violence. You got children that are watching their parent, their mother, their father being abused. So what do you think they're going to grow up and do?
Absolutely.
They're going to repeat that same cycle. It's a non-ending cycle. And we're going to go into more death on that cycle. So we're about to take a commercial break. So don't log off. Continue. We're going to monitor the Facebook page. Give us some hearts. Show us some love. But we're going to take a brief commercial break and enjoy the song in the commercial break. And we will be right back.
I didn't hit it. Watch.
Give me you. Everything else can wait. Give me you. I hope I'm not too late. Lord, give me you. Lord, give me you. Lord, give me you. Lord, give me you. Give me you. Everything else can wait. Lord, give me you. I hope I'm not too late. Give me you. Everything else must wait. Give me you. I just hope I'm not too late.
Welcome back from the commercial break, and that song is called Give Me You. And God gave me that song to play during the commercial break because that goes along with what we're talking about. A lot of times when you're in a domestic violence situation, you want so much of that person. You will do anything to get that person, but you need to ask God. You want more of God. Yes. And in a lot of these situations, to be honest, we wouldn't even be in or had not been in if we had said, Lord, give me you.
Give me
you agree with that?
Yes, I totally agree.
Yeah.
And just saying, Lord, is this your will for me? Because
Exactly.
a lot of times we are in the way.
Exactly.
We are in the way.
Exactly. And then before the commercial break, we were talking about cycles.
Yes.
Can you
absolutely.
give some more information on the cycles?
Yes, absolutely. You know, the cycles, generational cycles, as we know, and as the Bible speaks of curses, you know,
Yes.
we have the power and the authority, you know, to break them through, we know, of course, prayer, through demanding
Yes.
certain things, and just through making changes. And when we know better, we do better.
Yes.
When we know better, we do better. So, you know, it's up to us to show the generations behind us, show our children,
Yes.
you know, lead by example. And I'm sorry, you know, if it's a really, really crazy situation where your life is in danger, where your child is in danger, where your mental state is in danger,
Get out.
Get out of it. There is a chapter in this book called Not My Child.
Wow.
And I have talked to women and I said, you know, sometimes if you can't do it for yourself, you have to do it for your child.
You have to do it for your child.
Yes.
And statistically, the growing number of rape for domestic abuse victims are teenage girls between the ages of 13 to 18.
Yes, absolutely.
At that age, they should not be enduring any type of abuse. They should be concentrating on what college they're going to go to, you know, stuff like that. Not worrying about being beat by a boy or, you know, or whatever in school. So you go to the schools and you talk to the young women.
The young and men. Which I absolutely love.
Yeah.
I actually have a survey. It's called Is My Friend's Relationship Healthy?
Oh,
that I pulled off. And
adults need that
adults
survey.
need this. And this is so powerful because you will be surprised because number one, it's in secret. You know, and I say you can give a name if you want. If you don't want to, but the yeses that are on here was just amazing. And stuff like, does your friend's partner support their dreams and goals?
Wow.
Does your friend's partner pressure them in sexual activities? Does your friend's partner respect their friend's time alone? Has your friend's partner ever threatened to harm themselves? Even your friend, even a family. So it's just really, really things. It can be little tools like this that we can use, you know, strategy to get to our youth and our young people. It's so important that we bring awareness to them.
Exactly.
And more than anything, set examples.
Yes.
You know, they should see what it is to what it is today. I wish if, you know, I think about being a teenager, you know, and my dad, I love him to life and he was always there, but he didn't take my sister and I like on dates. So we didn't know, and I didn't really see him and my mother like interact.
Okay,
you know,
or public affection. They didn't do
and
that.
Things like that. But that's so important, you know, for men to take their daughters on a date, or like for me, I make my son, you know, he's 14, and so Jordan, he is kind of trained now. When we're together, he knows, you know, I'm not carrying any bags. When we go to the door, I stand back, he opens the door. He's been doing this since like 9-10 years old. So we have to be that example, and we want to show them what healthy looks like. You know, what a God marriage ordained Christ,
yes,
and his bride, the church, everything, what it looks like.
And then a lot of times, the generation of millennials, or even adults, I just say people in period, they look at all of these a lot of these reality TV shows.
Oh my goodness.
And that's not love.
No.
The amount of abuse that they display on a lot of these reality shows, the fighting, the women cussing out other women, and the women fighting other women, and the men talking down to the women, that's not love. And if that's all they see on TV,
my Lord,
they're going to accept that that's the norm, and that's not the norm.
Yeah, and in today's society, we know everything that you see on TV is glamorized.
Yes.
And the world has suited up. They've made right wrong and wrong right. So every opportunity we get, we just want to plant a seed,
Yes.
and check on our children, check on our youth, how are you? Are you seeing someone? How's it going? Tell me about it. And I've had that, young people say, well, I know, one young girl had convinced herself that it was her fault. And I had to let her know it's not your fault. It's never a reason for someone to put their hands on you. It's not your fault,
But and then you also have people that will convince you that it was your fault.
It was your fault.
So we want to change gears a little bit. So even in the church, because I remember I've been in multiple relationships where some type of abuse was there. And the first time we went to counseling, it was through the church, and the pastor's wife was, well, what did you do to provoke him? And I'm looking like,
yeah, that's the question.
And then her next statement to me was, well, Wanda, I don't think you prayed hard enough.
My God. Yeah.
I was like, so have you come across any people who have endured violence in the church, and what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I have physical violence, not as much as the scrutiny and the control. The control part is a little bigger, because they know that they can't, if they put those scars on you, it's going to be evident. So absolutely I have, and so one of the things that I talk about is number one, just making sure that you have done all that you can do. And when I say that, I say, maybe it may be a time of fasting, it may be a time of prayer, it may be committing to 31 days of praying for your husband, just to give it time to see. But in that time, you gotta know that you know.
Exactly.
Now, if it's something that's just blatant, sometimes people get super deep. I'm not that super deep and so churched out where when it's time to roll out,
you got to
and
go.
if it's completely dangerous, I don't care who said it, your mama, your daddy, your pastor, whatever, you got to do what you got to do for your safety and your sanity. And that's even in the church.
But a lot of people will say in the church, well, and a lot of people will know that you're being abused.
Yes,
they will stand back and won't say anything. And they'll be like, and the first thing they'll say, well, God hates divorce.
Yes.
But do you think, is God okay with this person beating your putting bruises on you?
Absolutely.
And then they get up in the pulpit and they preach a sermon. Is God okay with that?
No,
I don't think so.
Not at all. And I'm pro marriage, and I tell anyone that. And I know, and I love what God loves, and I hate what He hates.
Exactly.
But I do believe, and I know that we serve a God that's full of grace. And in my divorce and my own personal situation, I have perfect peace about it because I sought God. I gave it some time. I even waited for a time for the heart to turn. So going back to Nabal, a hardened heart. And I'm going to tell you what I know. Anybody, if the heart is ripe, God can move in any situation. And I've seen the messiest stuff come back together. I've seen the worst of abusers. God can soften their hearts and cause, and he can bring that thing that was apart back together.
Yes, He can.
But when the heart wants to do what it wants to do, what do you do?
Yeah.
So you can stay there and you can live under people's opinion and scrutiny of you and suffer.
be another statistic.
And be another statistic
No.
because you might not make it out. Or you can say, Lord, I know that you are the God of grace. You know me through and through. And I believe that if he was against, second marriages, there would be, I mean, half
Look
of
at the
even,
world.
Look at the world. And even in the church, some people don't want to hear it, but it's true.
It's true.
It's true.
And you can't, that's one thing that the church needs to stop sweeping these types of topics under the rug, because, I mean, everyone knows most of the divorces occur in the church.
Yes, they do.
So all of these other issues are occurring in the church as well. Domestic violence,
Everything.
and whether it's physical, whether it's verbal, whether financial.
Yep. Mental.
And that pastor's wife may sit on that row, or the minister's wife, knowing that they just got beat or just cussed out in the car,
My
or
God.
the night before, and they have to sit up there and they will play the role and raise their hands, hallelujah, praise the Lord. But that's like having a form of godliness,
Yes.
but denying the power thereof. And it's like, oh yes, we love God, we know what God has called us to do, but we also, I think, if you're being abused, you also have to go to God and say, God, if this is not your will, but if you provide a way of escape.
Yes,
and I believe that God will do that.
Prayer.
Yeah,
and I'm telling you, He will do it. But you got to be ready for it.
Exactly.
If that's the situation, He will. And some people take it, and some people don't. And it has literally cost some people their lives. And some people have escaped, and they did like Lot's wife.
They looked
back, and they lost their life to this day. So we just want to take heed more than anything. We just want to be wise.
Be wise.
And you want to
exactly.
sit still, and you want to hear from God for yourself. Because it's going to come a time that, because, we know everybody has an opinion.
That's true.
Everybody has an opinion. You will be all over the place. But God, what do you say?
What do you say?
Yes.
And then you have to, is my front row seat, is my front parking spot, is that worth more than my life?
My God. My God, my God. And I'm telling you, and some people, like when you're saying that, they say, is it worth more than my life? They thinking, no, they might not take a bullet and put it through your head, but over time, you know how many women have developed cancers and things like that, because things are balled up inside.
And it's raising your cortisol levels, which causes stroke, which causes heart disease, which activates your cancer cells. So domestic violence plays into so many different health issues as well.
That's what I'm saying.
It's not just the physical, the verbal. It encompasses a total person.
Yes, it does.
Everything.
Yeah. Yes, it's so true. So we just have to be so careful.
We do.
And we just want to know that we know. And above all, we want the will of God. But God is a God of grace, a God of mercy. We're not advocating for divorce because we love marriage. I look forward to marriage again.
Me too. I look forward to being married.
Because I know that it can be a beautiful thing, but we want to do it in God's timing and in His will. So I said, Lord, the first time I did it my way, the next time it'll be your way.
Exactly. Whom God sent.
Whom God sent. And sometimes, and there are even things, there's a chapter that talks about signs. And we didn't even get into, those that are dating and things like that. And one of the things that I wrote was the preview that they give you. Is what it's going to be. Oh yeah. So don't
false
think
person.
Preview what they give you is going to be. So it's just that simple. And sometimes we ignore things. So when it's like on a abuse level, when it's those control things,
we ignore
and things like that, you have to pay attention even in dating. I don't care, and that's for someone, I don't care if you have the ring on your finger and the date set. If they are if you're seeing those signs of aggression,
take heed.
If you don't have your own voice, if you can't speak up for you, take heed.
Exactly.
Yes.
I really enjoyed you being a guest. I would love to have you come back, because this is a conversation that we can get more into, especially about the dating.
Yes, yes.
You know, and so how can, if people wanted to reach you, because you're also an entrepreneur, so if you could tell us a little bit about what your business is.
Absolutely.
And how they can contact you as well.
Absolutely, yep. So I am a hairstylist.
She did my hair, y'all.
Yeah, I cut her hair, and I I always say, so my business name is Style and Spirit Salon, and I am on Facebook and Instagram. My business page is www.Style and Spirit Salon. So style, I say, that part, that's what I do, but the spiritual part is who I am.
I love that.
So that's where the name came, Style and Spirit. That's me. That's who I am. And so I always say, one of the things was my pulpit started at my chair. And that's going back 25 years. I've been styling. I've been a hairstylist since 1991. Wow. So, but through God's grace, He has stretched me. He has developed me in business, in entrepreneurship. So yes, I am. I'm a business owner. You can come by my salon, and I have a wonderful nail technician there, and we have things going on. I'm a author, and I delve in a few other things in family business. But God has really stretched me and shown me. I love what entrepreneurship is. So you can check me out there. Also, I am on Instagram as Shell Aspires to Inspire.
I love that.
And you can also order my book. You can go on Amazon.com and simply put in I Am Abigail.
Yeah. I recommend everyone read that book, not just females, because males endure abuse as well. But go and support LaShelle Adams. And I just want to thank you again for being on the show. And we're going to have to schedule another date for you to come back on. Thank you all for watching. Every week I send out a newsletter on who's going to be the guests on my show, or for any speaking engagements that I'm doing. And you can go to my website, wandabriscoe.org, and go down to the bottom of the page where it says join my mailing list and enter your email address, and sign you up for the newsletters. And you can also get my books on Amazon. So at the end of each show, I end it with a food for thought. So today's food for thought is something that I wrote in my book here. At the end of my book, there are several poems, and they're called Poems That Are Inspired by the Storm. And so this is something that I wrote in 2015, and I held on to it. I didn't want to make it public until God said so. And so it's based on conversations from women in the church and things that I've also endured in the church. And I entitled it The Invisible Chain.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm going to read this food for thought. How did these invisible chains become a part of my daily attire? How did I get to this place of church hurt? I never was in a play before, but yet I have a starting role in a position that I didn't audition for. What goes on behind closed doors is supposed to stay there, is what we are told. As wives of men in the church who hold positions, we are not supposed to say anything about the abuse, whether it's physical, mental, sexual, or emotional. We come to church year after year and sit in our perfectly assigned pew, wear our perfect suit, wear our perfect hat, and wear the perfect shade of lipstick. Not too bright of a color of lipstick, because the worldly women wear bright colors. If we voice our opinions on anything, our husbands know how to tightly pull the invisible chains around our necks to put us back in line. We are not supposed to say anything about the women who run up to our husbands after church as they wait in line for the church hug that seems to last a little longer than it should. We see, but we don't see. We are supposed to act like a classy lady upon entering the sanctuary, but yet our husband has just cussed us out in the car on the way to church. Hold your head up, my sister. Shake it off. You have a starring role that you must adhere to. Hide your emotions, play your part, because if you don't, there are many women in the church who want to take your role from you. What are these invisible chains? They are chains of religion They are invisible chains of undocumented doctrine and rules. They are invisible chains of control and invisible chains of generational church abuse. So many women in the church have these chains around their necks. We are screaming at the top of our lungs for someone to save us, but no one will answer our screams. We have to come into the sanctuary with our heads held high. We have to sit through the sermons, and we don't hear what the pastor's preaching because our minds are somewhere else. Who will come to our rescue? The Bible says that if you're sick, call for the elders of the church. This abuse is a sickness and is at the hands of those who are supposed to pray for us. So who will save us? One day I decided to be bold and speak up about an incident to my husband. And when I did, the invisible chains were pulled tightly. And I was called every name but a child of God. Help me, my inner spirit cried. I can't breathe. It feels like I'm having an asthma attack. I was reminded that women are to not speak in the church. Women are to do whatever their husbands say. We are told that it's our fault as to why we are being abused physically, mentally, sexually, and verbally. We are told that we aren't praying enough for our husbands because surely it's something that we are doing for this to have happened. Years had passed, and one day I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. I started praying to God. God, please provide me with a way of escape. Lord, please forgive me for making religion an idol God. Please forgive me for putting man on a pedestal. Father God, if you provide a way for me, I will not look back like Lot's wife. I will help other women escape these invisible prison cells of religion. I will help other women get these invisible chains from around their necks. I feel myself gaining strength. I am hearing the voice of God clearly, and I see God's hand reaching down to me to run to him. I start taking baby steps. 1 step, 2 step, 3 steps, and then I find myself running towards God. I'm running for my life, literally. I feel the invisible chains falling. I inhale and then I exhale. I inhale and then I exhale. My God, I'm breathing on my own again. The strongholds of abuse have been released. I run into the arms of God and he provides a safety net for me. The invisible chains are running rapid in the church, but the church doesn't want to talk about it. It's swept under the rug. Where are the women that want the invisible chains removed? Where are the women that want to kick down the doors of the cliche? What goes on behind closed doors stays behind closed doors. Where are the women that are sick and tired of being sick and tired? Where are the women who are tired of suffering from a church encounter, but they aspire to have an encounter with God? I am thankful for the women that have taken a stand to run to God and their invisible chains have been released. Yet I pray for the women who decided to stay invisibly chained. Wake up, my sister, whom the sun sets free is free indeed. It feels so good to breathe fresh air. It feels so good to be forever released from my invisible chain. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in to Wanda's Warriors Show. Tune in next week. I will have another guest. Thank you all for tuning in again. Don't forget to like, share, and start a watch party for this broadcast. And remember, my motto is to live out loud and have a blessed weekend. Thank you, everyone.